Okay, I'm going to begin now. Hi, everyone who's joined us today. Please make sure you have your Rise of Hitler worksheet with you, as well as the sources from that group activity that we did together. Okay, so started the recording. Yes, I've started recording. Okay. So let's begin with where we stopped the last time, which is we finished the political and economic circumstances in Germany, right? Which led to the rise of Hitler. Okay, so we're going to move on to covering Hitler's leadership abilities and as well as the events that led to the Nazi Party's rise. Okay, so this is where we stopped last time, right? I gave you guys a very basic introduction of Nazi ideology, right? Things that I think most of you are familiar with already. Okay, so we talked about the 25-point program, which is basically the Nazi Party's policies, right? Their manifesto, their ideas of what Germany should look like after they have gained power, after they have gained power through the elections, right? So if you look at all of these policies, the abolition of the Treaty of Versailles, the union of Germany and Austria, right? Allowing only true Germans to live in Germany, increases in old age pensions referring to the retirement sum to be paid out to those Germans who have retired, something like CPF, right? And establishment of a strong central government, nationalization of large businesses. All of these policies are extremely populist policies. Okay, so which means that they are extremely popular amongst the people, especially if you look at things like abolishment of the Treaty of Versailles, the union of Germany and Austria, the fact that there was overwhelming support for the union of Germany and Austria, but they were turned down because of the Treaty of Versailles, as well as what the League of Nations had decided for them. Okay, so this is what I said the last lesson, which is that the Nazi Party came to be seen as the only right-wing party that could compete with left-wing parties, right? Remember, because of the political and economic circumstances in Germany at that point in time, moderate parties became increasingly unpopular, right? People reach for more extreme solutions, parties that promise them the world, parties that promise them the solution to all of their problems. And that's usually those with very extreme policies such as communism, or in this case, Nazism. Okay. So these were Hitler's promises. I just want to highlight for Hitler, his aim of territorial expansion, right? If you look at the 5th bullet point, create Lebensraum. Lebensraum referring to living space, okay, for Germany in the East, okay? And I think I went through this the last time, right? Germany in the East, which refers to Russia and Poland, okay? We're not just stopping at Austria, but also looking at the other countries in the East, such as Russia and Poland, right? And this is basically the precursor to the start of World War II, right? Immediately, we already see that he has ambitions of territorial expansion. He has the desire to continue to expand Germany outwards to gain land and resources for the people, okay? And some of Nazi ideology and policies, capitalist economic policy. Capitalist meaning that he supports big businesses. Okay, he supports big businesses. Very attractive to the things that are very attractive to those who are right-leaning. State control of economy, right? Creation of jobs, and this is also attractive to the left because the Nazi Party is anti-communist. Okay, this is the one thing that you guys need to remember, that the Nazi Party was extremely anti-communist, right? So some of the sources that you've looked at mention that the Nazis and the communists would go out on the streets and fight each other, right? So this was something that the Nazi Party really promoted, that they were anti-communist, and they also promised to solve unemployment and the farming crisis, right? And to use modern effective campaign methods. Okay, we will talk about this later when we look at the next fact, when we look at one of the last factors, which is the reorganization of the Nazi Party. Okay, at any point, if you have any questions, just type in the chat, okay, or you can just type in the chat or just unmute yourself and speak. Okay. All right, so Nazi ideology also included anti-Semitism, right, which basically means hatred, hostility, prejudice against Jews. Okay, it's not just racism. Racism is a very broad category that refers to discrimination against any particular race, right? Anti-Semitism refers to the discrimination, the ostracism of Jews in particular. Okay, and why Jews? Because the Jews are an ethnic, they are a religious group as well, and they were considered as immigrants to Europe. Okay, they were considered as alien and therefore hostile and foreign, okay, to Europe. And the thing about the Jewish community at that point in time was that, in contrast with Germans who were suffering economically, the Jews were usually quite good businessmen and very, very wealthy. So they became a very popular target, right? It became a very easy kind of scapegoat, an enemy group, right, for the people to target. Okay, so if you look at the source at the top right here, okay, you can see how the Jews were being characterized. Okay, big noses, big ears, right? They look very suspicious, a bit sly as well. This was the popular characterization of them as a bit odd looking. This is one way that people used to characterize how they were anti-Semitic. Okay. So going back to one of the sources that we discussed in your group work, right, a cartoon of Hitler from a British magazine. At this point, you should already have your have all the sources with you. Okay, so you see Hitler there, right? He is making a speech, right? The world persecutes us. We want peace and equal rights in our people, while at the same time he's stepping on a Jewish man. Okay, so this is what your classmates have mentioned. I can learn about Hitler, the Nazi party, is that they have a sense of hatred against the Jewish people. Yes, correct, right? By stepping on a Jewish man, Hitler's speech has some credibility and some weight to it, because how did he make the Nazi party more popular? Because he took advantage of the hatred from normal German citizens, right, to increase his political strength and use them as a scapegoat, right, put all the anger to the Jews so that he would become more relatable to the people that agree with him. And I would like to just emphasize here that it's not just about being relatable to the people that agree with him. This was something that a lot of German society believed in, that they not like, they did not want the Jews to be in their society. They wanted the Jews out of their society, and this was something that the Nazi party and also the Nazi party truly and completely believed in. So it's not just for oh, it's just a popular part of the bandwagon. It was something that a lot of the majority of German society believed in at the point in time. Oops. Okay, so there was also, oh, if you need me to slow down, right? I know you guys are copying notes. Is someone talking? Okay, if you guys need me to slow down to go back to the previous slides, just let me know. Okay. All right. So Nazi ideology, right, built also on the idea of the superior white Aryan race. Okay, which I want to emphasize is an ideology, a thinking that is completely untrue, right? There's no such thing as an ideal human being. There's no such thing as these particular human beings being the best, the most superior, right? But it's the idea, it is a myth, okay, of the master race that the superior people are those with white skin, blue eye, you know, they have blonde hair and all of that. Yeah, so this is completely untrue, but this is something that the Nazi ideology was built upon. Okay, so when we think about the impact of Nazi rule and when we think about what Hitler did after he gained power in Germany, right? This is the precursor to what we know of the Holocaust. Okay, so I'm going to move on now, right, to the next factor. Any questions about this factor? I think it's pretty simple, pretty something that you guys already know about, right? Okay. Okay, so we're going to look at Hitler's leadership abilities, right? His charisma and oratorical skills. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a video first. All right, and then there is a big blank in your worksheet, right, that asks you what do you think of his what do you think of the way he speaks, right? Hitler's speech. Okay, so just listen carefully. I hope that is sound.
Das alles ist Zeit! Die große Zeit ist jetzt angebrochen. Deutschland ist nun erwacht. Die Macht haben wir nun in Deutschland gewonnen. Nun gilt es, das deutsche Volk zu gewinnen. Ich weiß es, meine Kameraden, es ist euch wohl oft schwer gefallen, wenn ihr meint, es müsse nun ein Wandel kommen und er kann nicht und immer wieder muss der Leute abwehrgerichtet werden. Es muss weitergekämpft werden, denn es geht nicht. Ihr dürft nicht handeln, ihr müsst gehorchen, ihr müsst euch fügen, ihr müsst euch diesen unerhörten Zwang beugen. Was uns jahrelang als Traumbild vorschwebte, ist Wirklichkeit geworden. Das Symbol der Klasseneinigung des deutschen Volkes ist das Symbol des neuen Reiches geworden und damit Panier des deutschen Volkes. Der kostbarste Besitz auf dieser Welt aber ist das eigene Volk. Und für dieses Volk und um dieses Volk wollen wir ringen und wollen wir kämpfen und niemals erlahmen und niemals ermüden und niemals verzagen und niemals verzweifeln. Eine neue Volksgemeinschaft wird in Deutschland aufgebaut und es ist das schönste und das herrlichste Ziel, das es gibt. Es ist der Mut zu bedauern, über seinen Stall nicht hinausging. Dieses Glück zu helfen, das den am meisten belohnt, der sich zu diesem sozialistischen Staat bekennt, das muss uns am Beginn jedes neuen Bündnisses erfüllen. Diese gemeinsame soziale Arbeit, die ist mehr als ein Almosen. Und wir sagen nicht den Reichen, gebt ihr den Armen, sondern wir sagen, deutsches Volk hilft dir selbst. Jeder soll helfen. Ob arm oder reich, jeder soll sich denken, es gibt noch einen, der ärmer ist als ich und dem will ich helfen als Volksgenosse. Und wenn einer sagt, ja, es ist aber doch ein Opfer für mich, das ist dann der Ruhmestitel erst für deine Gabe. Und kannst du noch erhobeneres Haupt für deine Volksgemeinschaft dienen. Und der Glaube an Deutschland ist unerschütterlich. Und unser Willen unbändig. Und wenn denen Glaube, die so inbrünstig vereinen, dann kann auch der Himmel seine Zustimmung nicht versagen. Und ich erwarte von jedem Deutschen, der Anstand und Charakter hat, dass er in diese Kolonne mitmarschiert. Der Kampf gegen den Marxismus wurde damals zum ersten Mal zu einem Kampfziel erhoben.
Okay,
Damals.
I'm going to stop here, right? Anyone has answers to provide to the question? Like, what do you notice about the way Hitler speaks or any of what he says? Anyone? Awkward silence. Gwyneth? Just your own opinion. No one? Werner? Are you there? Xincheng?
Good.
Yes, so after watching the video, right, what thoughts do you have about Hitler?
He shout a lot.
He shout a lot, okay, but how do people respond to his shouting?
You like agree?
They agree, right? How do they show that they agree in the video?
They clap.
They clap. Okay. What about what he says, right? Other than his shouting, what does he shout about?
It's like what? Like he can help what? Help each other.
So he's encouraging them to help each other, right? But how does he say we should help each other?
Cause like it was lagging. I can't really see much.
Oh, okay, it was lagging. All right. Anyone else? Right? What else did he say in his speech? Davian?
He said how he want to bring change to the country.
Bring change to the country. Okay. And anything else you notice?
He speak very extremely, like taking things to extreme.
Okay.
So
And
that
any
people-
examples? What are some examples of how he takes things to the extreme?
Like the way that he says the Jewish.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. So thank you very much, Xincheng and Davian, for contributing. Right. Just something I want to point out from the video. Right. So as Xincheng mentioned, right, he speaks with a lot of passion. Right. He's shouting a lot. Right. His hand gestures move a lot, and the way that people respond to him is also they agree with him like extremely. It's not just clapping, it's also like how they give him standing ovations and signal that they make to hail Hitler also. Yeah, and as for the content of his speech, right, I'm not sure if you guys noticed, there's one part where he talks about how Marxism, right, Marxism, which refers to communism, right, is a threat, right, and this is something that all of Germany should unite against. Yeah, and his speech is very extreme. His speech is very I would also say very nationalistic, right? Nationalistic meaning that he praises Germany a lot, right? Our belief in Germany is unshakable, right? We must continue believing in Germany. So all of these skills, all of these rhetoric, okay, is aimed at really trying to arouse the emotions of the people. Okay, it's quite vague, right? Just now when I asked Xincheng, right? No, is it Davian? I can't remember. Okay, just now when I asked one of your classmates, right? How does he say we should unite, right? Actually, he doesn't really say how we should unite, right? There's no clear. Some of his speech is very vague, right? I'm not sure if you guys noticed this. Okay, I'm gonna move on, right? So this is one source, okay, that is about Hitler's speech, right? So Joseph Goebbels, okay, Joseph Goebbels, right, who eventually became the Nazi Party's propaganda minister. Okay, he is an important person. So remember his name, Joseph Goebbels. Okay. So this is what he said after hearing Hitler's speech to the Germans. Right? Hitler's a genius who developed his own abilities with no help from anyone else. He speaks his heart, therefore reaches the hearts of those who hear him. He has the amazing gift of sensing what is in the air. He has the ability to express things so clearly, logically, and directly that listeners are convinced that this is what they have always taught themselves. Okay, so what can you learn about Hitler here? Right, so these are your answers. I can learn that Hitler has an uncanny talent to persuade people to believe in whatever he's saying is right. Yes, so his ability to connect, convince people, right? Many people are convinced by his speech as he spoke with passion, right? People can understand what Hitler says in his speech, and therefore they agree with what he says. And Jane and Carl say that Hitler is a manipulative person. Yeah, sure, right? He is able to use his speech to convince people to support him. All right. And another source, right? Hitler rehearsing gestures and actions. Okay. These are pictures taken by Hitler's official photographer, and Hitler would later use these photos for analysis. Okay, so what kind of analysis, right? Ethan, Edissa, and Denny. Yeah. So Hitler practices his speech, his gestures before his speech, right? So he takes his speeches very seriously to help him gain more support, right? So when you see sources of Hitler up on stage performing, right, you have to remember that it is a performance, right? He doesn't go up there and just gestures. It doesn't come naturally to him, right? This is something that he rehearses actively. Okay, so this helps him to gain immense support because people agree with what he said. Okay, and Gabriel Hashri Natalia, Hitler was a methodical man. Yes, he thought out what he did to meet his objective. Right, he plans out what to do in his speech and in order to manipulate and control people's views. Right, what gestures, what sounds, or what sound bites does he use, okay, to gain people's attention and arouse their emotions. All right, so just to sum it up, right, he's a true orator because he prepares, practices the speech, right? He has incredible energy, okay, and he made a lot of his speeches in beer halls, right? Beer halls basically referring to like places where the Germans would go to drink beer, basically. Okay, so where people are at ease, easily swayed, right? And he starts his speeches quite calm. He starts to really nurse communist scapegoats for Germany's ills. Okay, so November Criminals. Can you all hear me? Okay, so November Criminals, right? If you don't remember who these people are, the November Criminals refer to the Germany's ministers, right? Those in charge of the Weimar Republic who signed, okay, the Treaty of Versailles. All right, those who signed the Treaty of Versailles in November 1919. Okay, they are seen as November criminals because they were seen to have betrayed the German people, the German army as well. All right, I'm going to move on to the next source right now. Okay, of communism. So remember, someone else speaking here, right? Okay, so remember that Nazi party is extremely anti-communist. Okay, so just one fact you have to remember among many others. Okay, so if you look at the 1928 elections, right, the Communist Party won four times more than Nazi Party, as opposed to the 1932 elections, right, when the Nazi Party soon gained ground. I think 1932 elections, they won 33% of the vote. Okay, so that was a majority as compared to all the other political parties, right? So how did this all come about, right? Remember that at that point in time, Germany's economy is on the way down. There's hyperinflation. There is the Great Depression, right? The people are unhappy with the government. The people are unhappy with the continual change in all the different governments, okay, because of the way that the government is set up. Okay, and they are starting to look for more extreme parties. That includes the Communist Party as well as the Nazi Party, right? So how the Nazi Party start to gain ground over the Communist Party? All right, so people did fear that communists would take over the country, right? They were looking at what was happening in Russia. They were looking at what was happening in the other countries, right? And Hitler in creating disorder in Germany, right? And something
Yang gimana lagi?
okay, so where did I stop? are starting to move towards, because starting to move in that creating this all revolution in Germany, and he used what's happening in Russia, to normally. Okay. Go to a hotspot. Ashram, Gwen, are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, where did I stop? Is it still the slide?
I think we can start from this.
The slide, okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think those who are in are in. Okay. Okay, so this is what I was saying just now, right? It's the third time saying this. All right, so remember that point in time, right? The Nazi Party are extremely anti-communist, right? They don't believe in communism. And Hitler claimed that communists were only interested in creating disorder and starting a revolution in Germany. And he was using what was happening in Russia, okay, to prove his point. He told the rich people who are the landowners, right, those who own massive plots of land, the industrialists, right, those who own big businesses, okay, that the communists would take their property away and give it to the workers. Okay, so what does this mean? This means that this is one of the core principles of communism, right? That to achieve true communism at the end of all the revolutions, right? What a communist country would look like is that all property, there's no private property, so no one owns land, right? No one owns private housing, no one owns private businesses. Okay? All of it is shared by the people, right? The people work together and distribute the resources, the money, whatever that the crops, whatever it is, okay, all equally. This is one of the core principles of communism. So he's not wrong, exactly. He's really not wrong. Okay, and if you remember what was happening in Stalin Russia as well, which is something you guys have to revise, right? Remember collectivization, remember remember collectivization, right? Which is to merge all the individual farms, right? Take away all the private land, all the private plots of land, all the private farms, okay, and merge it into one big kozaki, right? That's what communism is about, right? So he's not wrong, right? But he used this, okay, to really scare people, especially those who are richer, those who own land, those who own big businesses, okay, into voting for the Nazi Party instead. Okay. So any questions here? If not, I'm just gonna move on. All right. Okay, so in the 1930s, right, with everything else that we know about what's happening in Germany, right? The economy sucks, right? There's hyperinflation, Great Depression. So many people are unemployed, right? The communists fought the police in the streets of Germany. And at the point in time, right, Nazi Party also started having their own military. Okay, so that's when they started to go out in the streets too and to fight the Nazis. Okay, and many felt that Germany needed the Nazis to bring order back. All right, so and that's where, okay, this is the source I was talking about, right? The young Weimar Republic, okay, struggled to control the armed street fighting, which mainly between communists and Germans, right? This is the situation in Germany at the time. It's chaotic, right? 6 million Germans, 40% of the working population is unemployed. Okay, 40% is a lot, okay? And thousands found themselves without a place to live, okay? And women were urged to give up their jobs, return home to their traditional roles as wives and mothers, okay? And okay, so what can we learn about Germany after the war? You can learn that, can I not include your answers here? Okay, yeah, probably not. Okay, so you can go onto the Padlet and look for the your classmates' contributions for source E, right? The Padlet link is in the QR code in your worksheet, right? So what can we learn about Germany after the war? It's chaotic, the situation is unstable. The Weimar Republic, which is the government, is they are struggling to maintain order, right? So how did this lead to the rise of Hitler? Hitler comes in, right? They see him and the party as a promising solution, okay, to lead Germany into stability, into prosperity as well. All right, so source H, right? I think this source confused Razor and Xia Hui, I think. I remember talking to them about it. So this source is about Fritz Thyssen. Okay, so this is just one guy who's one of Hitler's early supporters. So who is this Thyssen guy? He inherited his father's fortune. He formed United Steel Works, okay, a company that controlled more than 75% of Germany's reserves, the ore reserves, which refers to natural resources, okay, and employed 200,000 people. So this guy is someone who has a lot of influence over Germany's economy, okay, and he becomes one of the leading backers of the Nazi Party. So he recruited other people to the cause. He signed a letter that urged then President, okay, Paul von Hindenburg, okay, to appoint Adolf Hitler as Chancellor, okay, and then he also fundraised, right, 3 million marks referring to the currency for the Nazi Party in the forthcoming election. Okay, so let's see, how this helps the Nazi Party, right? So Ray, Josh, and Lara, right? Nazi Party was able to increase the party membership, right? And Hitler's chances of becoming chancellor increased with the amount of new supporters, right? So that's one thing, okay, but to be even more specific, right, what Xia Hui and Rizal mentioned, Nazi Party received a lot of support from industrialists, okay, leading to the rise of Hitler, right? So they fundraised 3 million marks for the Nazi Party, right, to increase the popularity of the Nazi Party. And I think this source is also important when we think about the exploitation of fear of communism, right? When Hitler says, if you support the Communist Party in Germany, this will result in negatively affecting the rich people and the businessmen. So of course, the rich people and the businessmen are going to flock, right? They're going to move towards the Nazi Party instead, okay? And the Nazi Party, which is very firmly anti-communist, right? So this guy, Fritz Thyssen, is one example of how people were influenced by Nazi Party, what they believed in what the Nazi Party said about communism, and they moved towards supporting him instead. All right, and I think this source, no one touched it. Okay, so this source, right, is a cartoon published for an election. Okay, it's by the Nazi Party, right? So it says there, "End the corruption," right? And then you see the fist of a Nazi member, right, attacking a communist, two Jewish men, okay, and yeah, 2 Jewish men, so a communist, 2 Jewish men, and it says here, "Truth Nazism," right? So you can see from this source, the communists, the Jewish people, right, they are being used as a scapegoat, okay? They're seen as the corrupted, right? End the corruption. How do you end the corruption? You end the communists, you end the Jewish men. How do you do this? You choose Nazism, all right? So what can we learn about Hitler and the Nazi Party? You can say that they used the communist Jewish men as scapegoats, right, as easy targets, all right, for the people to support the Nazi Party instead. So how did this lead to the rise of Hitler? People believe in their rhetoric. They believe that the Jewish people and the communist people, the communists was the reason for Germany's ills, and they flock to the Nazi Party instead. All right, last two factors. Let's go. Anyone needs me to pause? Needs me to repeat? Okay, if not, we'll continue. Right, last two factors. Skillfulness at making deals with the politicians. Okay, so we're now looking very firmly at the events that led to Hitler rising to becoming the chancellor. Okay, so Hitler, he wanted the position of chancellor, right? Remember what we talked about in the weaknesses of Weimar government, right? The constitution that allows the chancellor to invoke the emergency powers and then to rule by presidential decree, right? Which means whatever that the chancellor says goes, right? So that's why he wanted the position of chancellor, right? You get power, you get unrivaled power, right? And he refused to join any coalition, right? So the Nazi Party, they refused to join any coalition unless Hitler was given the position of chancellor. And the thing is, at the point in time, the president, von Hindenburg, okay, who is this? He did not, he was suspicious of Hitler. He didn't really trust Hitler, right? So he appointed von Papen and Kurt von Schleicher, okay, to become chancellor at different points in time, okay, leading up to the 1930s elections, right? But the thing is, these people, they led parties that did not have the support of the Reichstag. Okay, what this means is that the parties that they led, von Papen and von Schleicher, right, they did not, the parties that they led were not popular, right? They did not have a majority in Germany's parliament. Okay, Reichstag means Germany's parliament. Okay, so this is the problem right now, right? So what happened here? Von Papen and Hindenburg. Okay, von Papen, this guy here on the left, and Hindenburg. Okay, they invited Hitler to be chancellor. Why? So that they could get the support they needed in the Reichstag. Because in the 1932 elections, right, the Nazi Party had won 33% of the vote. Okay, these are statistics that you can find in your textbook, right? And they wanted to also keep the communists under control. Right, the communists are also incredibly popular. The communists are trying to, they're starting fights in the streets, right? They're trying to start a revolution, okay? And at the point in time, the Nazi Party was seen as the strongest party that was, one, popular, right? People had voted for them. They had the majority, 33% of the vote in the Reichstag, right? And two, to also keep the communists under control, right? To stamp out all traces of communism. Okay, so when Hitler won enough support, right, when he became chancellor, he acted decisively to take complete control over the government. This is what we'll talk about when we move to the next topic, which is the impact of Hitler's rule. Right? How did he take complete control over the government? Right. So basically, for this factor, what you need to know is at the point in time, he took advantage of the circumstance that was presented to him, right, which is that the government, the Weimar Republic at that point in time, right, President von Hindenburg, they need support from a strong party. In this case, the strong party is the Nazi Party with 33% of the vote. They're the most popular party, right? 33% of the vote. It's not the majority, but it is the most popular party as seen in the elections. Okay, so once they appoint Hitler as chancellor to get the support they need in the Nazi Party, right? Hitler was able to take complete control of the government. This is where you see all the weaknesses of the Weimar Republic, right? The constitution that allows for Hitler to rule by presidential decree. Okay? Are we all right? I'm talking to black screens. Yeah, black screens. So if you really do not understand anything, now is the time to ask. You want me to repeat as well? Okay, so there's this one source here in your textbook, not in your textbook, in your a worksheet, right? I think it's asking you what's the message or something like that, right? What can you infer from this source, right? Hitler being supported by Hindenburg and von Papen, right? It says here a temporary triangle, right? So how do they look? How do these two men look as opposed to Hitler, right? And what can we say about Hitler here? Okay. Maybe we can take 2 minutes, right? Very simply just pen down your inference. Okay. If you guys are wondering what to do, right, look at the source in the worksheet and write your inference out, right? What can you infer from this source? Whether about Hitler or whether about von Papen and Hindenburg.
This one.
Yes,
Who are the two people carrying this Hitler?
von Papen, this guy here on the left, you see my mouse? Okay, and Hindenburg. Okay, so the two people who appointed him as chancellor. Right, so Hitler is given the chance to be chancellor here, right? Okay, I think I've given you guys enough time. And anyone wants to volunteer their answers? No. Maybe I could ask Edissa. Edissa, you there? Okay, or Junwei. Right, what can you infer from this source? Mm. Anyone else? Junwei, Edissa, you guys there? Yes?
Can I say that Hitler manipulated them or like took advantage of their decision of making him a chancellor?
Okay, your evidence? How we describe the source?
I think he was
How does he look like here? No.
he was sitting on top of both the chancellors, which was initially appointed by, which is
Yes. Okay, wait. So okay, your inference that he was taking advantage of von Papen and Hindenburg's decision, okay, to appoint him chancellor. Yes. Okay, and your evidence is that he's sitting on top of them, right? He's being carried by them, while the rest of, I guess, the German people sort of look on, right? So he is sort of making use of them. He's literally being carried by them, right? To gain the support of the people. But okay, let me just clarify something. This guy here, von Papen, yes, he used to be the previous chancellor. This guy here, Hindenburg, he is the president. Okay, so he's the president. Okay, so it's just like how we have a president here and we have a prime minister here, chancellor. Chancellor is the equivalent of the German prime minister. Okay. All right. So thank you very much, Alia. Right. Good inference and good evidence as well. Anyone has questions about the source or about this particular factor? Okay, if not, I'm just going to move on to the last factor. All right, which is reorganization of the Nazi Party. Okay, so remember the various coups, right? The various putschs, okay, that happened during the rule of the Weimar Republic. There's the Spartacist Rebellion. There's the Spartacist Rebellion. There's also the Kappa Putsch, right? So the 1923 Munich Putsch is one that Hitler carried out. Okay, so Hitler led the Nazis to carry out he tried. This was actually an attempt, okay, to take control of the city of Munich. Okay, and actually he, at this point, he was actually able to convince the political leader at the point in time that ruled, I think, Bavaria or Munich at that point in time to support him. But then that person eventually backed out, and that's why his coup eventually failed. Okay, so at this point in time, right, his coup failed, okay, and he was arrested, put on trial for treason. Okay, treason meaning that disloyalty to the country, right? And he, in his trial, right, he argued that he carried out this revolution, this attempt, okay, in order to save Germany and restore German pride and strength. So this gained the attention of German people. And remember, he's very convincing as a speaker, okay, and in the end, he was actually given jail, and that's when Mein Kampf, during that jail term, he wrote Mein Kampf, okay, became an opportunity for him to reflect, right, on how he could better enable the Nazi Party to gain power here. Okay, and what happened next? All right, yes, so he completed a book, Mein Kampf, like his autobiography, which also served as his political ideology. And he made an important decision with regard to the Nazi Party. He's given all of this time in jail to sit there and reflect and to write a book, right? So what happened next was he decided he would use non-violent means to come to power, right? By 1925, he decided to abandon the use of force to gain power. What does the use of force mean, right? He decided that since the Munich Putsch, right, the coup, the attempt at overthrowing the local government hadn't even worked, right? Instead, he was jailed and all of that. But he decided he would take part in elections to gain power. Okay. All right. So then he started to reorganize the Nazi Party in order to fulfill the aim, all right, of taking part in elections to gain power. Okay. So he started to try and increase party membership, right? So people joined his party, then of course to be loyal to the Nazi Party. So he started to establish local Nazi parties, created the Hitler Youth. Okay, so that was actually modeled after things like Scouts, things like Girl Guides, all right, which was like they had a uniform, they had to swear loyalty to Hitler, to the Nazi Party, and yeah, okay, so this was one way of getting the people to support the Nazi Party. All right, and he established the SA and the SS. Okay, so these two organizations, these two groups, right? They're basically paramilitary organizations, right? They have arms, right? They're equipped with weapons. Okay, so SA is a paramilitary organization paramilitary meaning that they are not exactly, they are not under the control of the actual government's military. So it's paramilitary, like para. So it is a military organization, but it's not official. Okay, and the SS was Hitler's elite personal bodyguard. Right. So what did these two organizations do? Right, with the use of weapons, they broke up the Communist Party's meetings, right, to gain support from anti-communists. They also broke up strikes, right? Strikes, as you guys know from Sec 2 history, is when people go on strike, right? They decide that the workers decide that they don't want to work anymore, right? So they just leave their jobs en masse, right? So leave their jobs altogether, okay, to gain support from the industrialists, okay? Those of you who are wondering who are industrialists, basically they are the big, the owners of the big businesses, okay, the employers. All right. Next, all right, Nazi propaganda. So this guy is back, Joseph Goebbels. Okay, he's in charge. Okay, to produce all the propaganda that you've seen. All right, and to portray the Nazis as a strong party united behind one leader. Okay. All right, and this is one source that I gave you, right? Nazi propaganda system of 1930. Okay, so there were different headquarters in different regions of Germany. Okay, to make sure that the speaker and whatever they say is adapted to the local and economic circumstances. But in this, Nazi speakers are trained and they win the hearts of the people through varied entertainment such as concerts, sports days, even church parades. Okay. Sherry and Letitia, right? Their influences, okay, Nazi party very desperate, okay, in praising Hitler's actions. More that they were trying to gain support of the public so that Hitler could rise to power quickly, right? By the organized force, right? They're very prepared, okay, and they were able to gain the support of the public through propaganda, speaking about economic circumstances and using, right, entertainment such as concerts, your everyday entertainment such as concerts, sports days, even church parades, okay, to gain the support of the people for the Nazi party. All right, so these are examples of some propaganda, right? Look at this source here. Hitler looking like he's the second coming of Jesus Christ, like the light halo around him. Okay, and then this one, he gave me 4 years time. Okay, sounds very similar to Trump, TH. All right, 1937, anti-Bolshevik, right? Bolshevik referring to communist propaganda poster. Okay, so they painted the communists, right, as communism, the ideology of communism, as like a monster. Right? It's a monster that will attack the people. Okay, and this was the outcome, right? That Nazi party was able to gain the fervent support of people. Right? Look at the crowds that gathered for them. Okay, so actually I've come to the end of the rise of Hitler. Okay, at this point in time, do you all have any questions? Okay, on any of these factors that I've gone through. If you need me to go through hyperinflation, impact of Great Depression, Weimar Republic as well, I can do it now. Okay, if not, let me just go over what's going to be tested for your WA2, which is after the week which is on 10th May. Okay, so actually I sent this to your class, the group chat already. Right, it's a weighted class assignment. Okay, so these are the things that will be tested: purpose, comparison, and your SEQ part B. Okay, so purpose and comparison, these are things that are not unfamiliar to you, right? You've been doing the CMAO, or we change it to CAMOS, same thing. Okay, just use the same format to write your purpose. Comparison. Okay, these are things that you guys should already know, that you guys really should have to practice with. Okay, and the homework is for the purpose and comparison skills. All right, so these are the questions. This is what will be tested, right? The skills, purpose, comparison, SEQ part B, which is the two-sided question, right? For example, give you a statement such as the Stalin's rule benefited Russia. How far do you agree with this statement? So the two-sided one. All right, so next Saturday for the same Zoom meet, I will go through the homework, right, which you should hand up by Tuesday, as well as the homework that you've already handed up to me, which is your SQ part B. All right, so the two chapters that we tested, Stalin's Soviet Union, specifically on the impact of Stalin's rule. Okay, so you don't have to look at rise of Stalin. All right, and for Hitler, the rise of Stalin. So everything we've gone through so far. Okay. And okay, let me show you the homework. Homework. Okay, this is the homework, right? Which I think all of you should have gotten, right? Hashmin would have given it to those who are missing from 3-4. Okay, anyone here hasn't received this worksheet, by the way? I'm not gonna go through it now, I'm just showing it to you. No one? Okay, if not, I expect it on Tuesday. Okay, Hashrin and Shirley, please help me collect it from 3-4 and 3-6. Okay, if not, if you guys have any questions that you don't want to ask in front of everyone, you can stay back. If not, then that's the end of the Zoom meet. Okay? You guys can leave. Okay, bye.